Connie loved her job, her life, and the beautiful day around her as she confidently headed to work. She was smart, attractive, and ambitious, a combination she believed would take her far. Ms. Rule had just given her another raise, and now Connie was making almost $30,000 a year, with no limits in sight. Her job skills were sharp, and her future looked bright. Her mother was finally happy, especially now that Connie had grown into the daughter she had always secretly wished for. Connie had undergone hormone therapy for years, a process that had started in her youth and continued as she grew into the woman she was today. Connie was content with her life, or so it seemed. But as she arrived at the office, prepared Ms. Rule's coffee, and settled into her routine, she began to feel unwell. After handling emails, phone messages, and desk correspondence, she updated Ms. Rule's daily planner and headed out to lunch with Peggy, the office receptionist. Peggy was excitedly talking about her latest relationship when she suddenly noticed something was off. "Connie, are you okay? You look pale, and you're sweating. What's wrong?" "I don't know, Peggy," Connie replied weakly. "I feel dizzy and sick to my stomach." Before she could say more, she collapsed to the side and crumpled to the floor. Peggy panicked. "Someone help! Call 911. When Connie regained consciousness, she recognized the sounds of a hospital. She groggily sat up, only to be gently pushed back down by her mother, who was sitting by her side. "Rest, dear. You've been out for a while." "Everyone is very concerned," her mother said softly. "What happened, Mom?" "I was having lunch with Peggy, and then I felt this terrible cramp in my stomach." "Was it food poisoning?" Connie asked, confused. Her mother looked concerned but uncertain. "They're still running tests, dear. It could be a flu bug, perhaps." Connie could sense her mother's worry, though she did her best to reassure her. "Mom, why don't you go get some coffee or something and relax a little?" "I'll be fine. You'll feel better, and I'll feel better knowing you're calm." "You're stressing me out." Connie smiled warmly to soften her words. Her mother let out a chuckle and patted her hand before leaving the room, presumably to get that coffee. Soon after her mother left, an older, dignified man entered the room. He stood by her bed for a moment, silently observing, before speaking. "You are a very beautiful woman, and I never would have guessed that you were once assigned male at birth. How long have you been on hormone therapy, and at what dosage? I will need the contact details of your family doctor and endocrinologist as well. You've been pushing your system with very high hormone levels, and I must say, your doctors need to be more responsible in their care for you." "I'm not sure what you mean, doctor. I haven't seen any specialist or whatever you just mentioned, and I don't even know what a pre-op transgender is." Connie responded, confused. "What? You mean to say you did this to yourself? Why?" The doctor was visibly frustrated. "No, of course not, doctor. I haven't taken anything like what you said. This is just how I've always been. Just ask my mom, for heaven's sake." Connie raised her voice, matching his intensity. "So, what's wrong with me? Why am I in so much pain? Actually, it's not as bad now. Did you do something? If so, thank you." "You're welcome, young lady," the doctor said with a smile. "I couldn't leave you like that, could I? How old are you?" "I'll be 19 in a couple of months." "Why?" Connie asked. The doctor took a deep breath. "I have some very bad news. I want to know if you're ready to hear it." "Well, I might look young to you, but given everything I've been through in my life, I believe I'm mature enough to handle it," Connie replied firmly. "Very well," the doctor sighed, sitting next to her. He gently took her hand and looked into her eyes. "You have cancer. It's in both your boys down there and one of your chests. We can usually remove it with a routine procedure, but we're concerned about the aggressiveness of your cancer. I need to ensure that if we operate and air reaches the cancerous site, it won't spread to other organs that are vulnerable, especially given the amount of estrogen you've been taking. Cancer? Connie gasped, tears filling her eyes. How is that possible? I haven't taken any hormones. She began to cry, desperately hoping the doctor was wrong. Oh, please don't tell my mom. She'll be devastated. What do I do? Am I going to die? Connie rocked back and forth on the bed, overwhelmed with grief. The doctor's heart ached watching her suffer. He signaled to a nurse, who came over and adjusted Connie's for as the young woman continued to sob on his shoulder. Not if I can help it, the doctor said gently. Rest now and gather your strength. I'll find out what we need to do to beat this. And for now, I'll keep this from your mother. You've been incredibly strong, and I'm proud of you. Hang in there. He paused, glancing at Connie's bloodwork. I'm curious about your insistence that you haven't taken hormones. We'll need to investigate that further to ensure you don't take any more. Has anything new been added to your diet recently? The doctor noticed that the medication the nurse had administered was taking effect, and Connie drifted to sleep. Her mother returned to find her daughter asleep. Oh, thank goodness. She needed that rest, she murmured. How is she, doctor? Do you know what's wrong? Will she be okay? We're still uncertain, Mrs. Wells. The tests are giving us conflicting information. We'll need more tests and a thorough review of her medical history over the last few years. By the way, how long has your son wanted to be a woman? Excuse me, doctor? Mrs. Wells was taken aback. Oh, don't misunderstand me. You have a very strong and beautiful daughter. One that you should be very proud of, the doctor clarified. Thank you, doctor. I agree, she's everything I've always wanted. Did you have any involvement in her development, Mrs. Wells? The doctor asked, his tone now more curious than accusatory. Well, doctor, you know how difficult it can be raising a son these days, with all the trouble with drugs, delinquency, and so on. I'm a single parent, and I just couldn't handle raising a child full of aggression. Yes, I suppose you could say that I played a part in what you see now. Mrs. Wells continued, her tone firm. I'm proud of the person she's become, kind, considerate, and caring. But I wasn't disappointed with my son either. He was always gentle, just like his father. To make sure we were both healthy, though, I put us on a regimen of herbs and very mild hormones. I must say, I'm happy with the results. She's everything I always wanted in a daughter. Isn't she lovely, doctor? As Mrs. Wells spoke, the doctor's frustration began to build. He was beginning to understand the tragedy unfolding before him, a mother who, in her quest to do what she thought was best for her son, had made decisions with devastating consequences. The doctor exhaled sharply, his anger rising. Tell me, Mrs. Wells, he asked, turning to face her, are you a doctor? Did you consult any medical professionals before giving your son these drugs? Mrs. Wells recoiled in shock. No, doctor. I figured out what was needed from my husband's books. Wait, your husband was a medical doctor? No, he was a biologist, quite well known. Was your husband Gregory Wells? Yes, that's correct. I'm pleased to hear he's still well regarded. Do you honestly believe he would have supported what you did to your son? I'm not sure, she said, her tone growing colder. And I don't appreciate your attitude, doctor. Mrs. Wells, the doctor's voice hardened, I promised your daughter I wouldn't tell you what's wrong with her to avoid causing you undue stress. But it's clear to me that you have no remorse for the damage you've caused. You've likely doomed your daughter and, at the very least, seriously harmed your son with your reckless use of hormones. He took a deep breath. What were you thinking? Did you really believe that pumping someone full of that kind of poison wouldn't have serious consequences? The doctor's voice was laced with disbelief. Your daughter has cancer. If I don't get full details about where and when you purchase those hormones, we may not be able to operate in time, and she could be dead in a matter of months." Mrs. Wells' face twisted in horror as she absorbed the doctor's words. Hands over her face, she looked between the doctor and her daughter, now in deep distress. Without another word, she bolted from the room, crying. The doctor stood there, watching her leave. He shook his head sadly and glanced down at the fragile, irreparably damaged young woman in front of him, someone who had simply been born into the wrong family. So, this was the famous son of Dr. Gregory Wells? Well, now it was his daughter. At least for a while longer, perhaps. With the new information he had, there might still be a chance to extend that time. More research was definitely needed. Mrs. Wells sat in her car, tears streaming down her face. Her intentions had always been to promote good health for herself and Conrad/Connie, to protect them both from the heartache that could come from the toxic masculinity often associated with testosterone-driven behavior. She never, in her wildest imagination, thought she could hurt those she loved. She had cherished the transformation of Conrad into the beautiful, vibrant, and loving daughter, Connie. She had loved Conrad with all her heart, but as a mother, there was only so much she could do to build a deep and lasting connection with her son. A daughter, however, had filled that void in ways she could never have imagined. Now, to learn that her own selfish desires had led to the death of the very person she had prayed for, what could she do? Mrs. Wells' mind raced as she remembered that the significant changes had occurred when Ms. Rule had started administering hormones to her child. It was Ms. Rule's fault, she thought. She would make her pay for meddling in her life. Through tear-filled eyes, she drove home, staggered up to her room, and used her vanity chair to reach the attic access panel in the ceiling. She pulled down a leather-bound, ornate box with gold hinges and a small padlock, once belonging to her husband. She had hidden it away after starting to feminize him, fearing he would notice and tried to stop her before it was too late. But he never had, and instead, he had transformed into a kind, considerate, loving man, completely devoted to her. As she opened the box, Mrs. Wells was shocked to find it empty, save for an outline where a weapon had once rested and some spare ammunition. Instead, there was a card. She picked it up, reading it in disbelief. A cold sensation washed over her ankles, and with a shriek, she collapsed, fainting on the floor. If you appreciated this story and wish to show your support, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to my channel.